I'm Greg Tepper. That's Greg Powers. And this is This Week
in Cruton.
Whoa.
It's This Week in Recruiting. With Greg Powers, Next Level Athlete. Follow him on Twitter at GPowersScout. Follow Next Level Athlete on Twitter, Next Level D1. See his fine work at TexasFootball.com/recruiting. And of course, it's brought to you by our good chicken friends at Chicken Express. Chicken Express! My wife ate it for dinner last night.
My wife.
Because, do you know why? And this is 100% true. Because she was craving fried pickles.
Let's go.
And now, like, she loves their chicken. I was like, Chicken Express has fried pickles. She's like,
You got to get the ranch.
We'll all be driving by multiple Chicken Express locations on the way to College Station today, and I got a feeling that somebody's going to be stopping in and getting some of those yummy, fresh, and delicious chicken tenders, and that will be me.
I can't believe you.
I haven't had my fix this week.
I can't believe you're not legit on the payroll for Chicken Express.
Chicken
How
Express
much you
marketing's like that guy.
But
we want that
at the
one.
same time, why would they put you on the payroll when you will just do this
for free?
My friends in Hillsboro, get my Express tender pack ready.
It's This Week in Recruiting, and it's a very special edition of This Week in Recruiting because we had 10 new in-state pledges, commitments this week, including, by the way, and so does that include the 2 that came after you published?
No, two came in last night. Tyler King from A-Leaf Taylor committed to Texas Tech, which was their 3rd commitment of the week, and Cardell Pat from Stafford, defensive lineman, committed to Houston.
Okay.
So they're not listed, so 2 more commitments happened overnight.
So 12.
Yeah,
we have 12 between the last time we talked and now.
Sure.
Okay. We're going to run through them. Let's start with a 3A commitment. How about this? How about Hut Graham, the quarterback for the Gunner Tigers, has committed to Texas Tech. I made the comment on Twitter that I thought that it was really cool that the quarterback of a pistol option offense was committing to Tech. I want to be very clear. I don't think Hut Graham's going to play quarterback at Texas Tech. I think he could. I think he's pretty darn good. But I think they're likely to move him over to the defensive side of the ball. Is that correct?
Yep. Tech sees him as a defensive back or safety.
Well, he's a guy we'll see in College Station this weekend because he's going to be playing quarterback and defensive back for the Tigers. Wherever you put him, like what I like about this is I think this is proof that if you're a ball player, it doesn't matter what offense you play in. It doesn't matter what classification you play in. You're going to get noticed. You're going to get some love, and Hut Graham is a perfect example of that.
Pretty cool recruiting story, too, because I think he went to camp at TCU, stood out, got some started to get some publicity. Mm-hmm. Then he went to Lubbock for a camp. They offered and brought him right back in for an official visit so he could meet everybody, meet all the coaches, and he committed very quickly. I really like his tape. Even playing quarterback, he's a guy who throws the ball pretty good, but he runs well and he brings a lot to the table. He's a leader, 6'1", 175. So, he checks a lot of the boxes off if you're a Texas Tech fan and kind of got the ball rolling. They're now starting to pick up some commitments, and it was a little bit slow for them for a while. So this kind of got some waves out there on social media, and now you're starting to see the ball roll downhill a little bit for the Red Raiders.
So one of the things that about Hudson Graham is his name, but he goes by Hut because that's a great quarterback
elite
name.
Quarterback name.
Yeah.
One of the things about Hudson Graham is they don't, as you probably can notice, they don't ask him to throw the ball a ton. He operates that kind of pistol option offense. He threw the ball 162 times last year. Okay, that's not for a guy. They played, I think, 15 games last year.
Yeah.
To throw the ball 162 times, they're not asking him to go out there and air it out. Complete 112 of them for 2,000 yards. Okay, plus he ran for 650 yards. You talk with Jake Fizel, he'll tell you what a leader this guy is, what a hard worker he is. Again, I just love this story because it's a perfect example of all of the traditional metrics of things where you go to find recruits.
Right.
They are changing. If you can play ball, you're going to get noticed, and that's what happened here with Graham.
A couple of Texas legends definitely knew about him too. He had an offer from UTSA in Hawaii, so people were dialed in on him.
Yeah, people knew what they were getting. All right, let's now move on to another Texas Tech commit. This one out east to Tyler Legacy, where Bryson Donnell has committed to Texas Tech. He had 20 offers, chose the Red Raiders over them. This is a very deep running back class in 2022. Bryson Donnell strikes me as a guy who is maybe a victim of being in such a deep class that he's not getting the love that he deserves. I think a lot of other years people would be going gaga over Bryson Donnell.
Well, the thing I think that you have to take into consideration when you're breaking down his game is that he shares carries with Jamarion Miller, who's one of the top-rated running backs in the entire country. And what I love about their offensive scheme is those guys are pretty different. You know, you see Miller is able to catch the football out of the backfield really well, can split out and play some wide receiver, where Donnell is a guy who brings a little bit of thunder when he's running with the football. The thing that I really like about him that jumps out on tape to me is his balance. And it makes him escape or dodge away from defenders pretty easily. They just like kind of slide off of him. We brought that up when we were talking about DeAnthony Gatson, who committed to USC this week, by the way. So another big commitment in the Lone Star State. Very similar games. Those two guys are, in that top 100, but could very easily be moved up, I think. And a lot of colleges value them as higher-rated type of guys, too. Like you said, it's kind of a deep running back class this year.
Most certainly. Bryson Donnell, a Texas Tech commit. Let's talk about Baylor. Baylor had a nice week. Picked up 3 commitments. Let's start down with the one of the big hog mollies in the offensive line, the offensive tackle, Caden Siraki.
Yep.
Nailed it, from the Woodlands. He had offers from places like SMU and Texas Southern. He's pulled the trigger to go to Baylor. A lot of this, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of this stems from, and a lot of Baylor's interest was, we got him in as a camper in one of their camps. He was exceptional there, and they were like, you want to stay? And he's like, yeah, that sounds good. And at 6'7", 320, he's the first one off the bus.
Yeah, and he has a younger brother, Colton Siraki, who is going to be a big-time stud as well. So they're paying it forward by recruiting the family there too. But he stood out at the camp, and he's one of these guys who – we talk about this all the time. There are some of these guys who go the extra mile to develop into top-tier prospects, and he's put in a ton of work in the offseason to be one of those guys when he went to camp that he would get noticed. I mean, yeah. I guess you're going to notice 6'7", 320, whenever it comes to the camp. But to be honest, there are a lot of guys like that vying for offers. There are a lot of big players. Texas is a very loaded state with talent, especially up front, and they are used to playing in these systems that they can move now. They're not just stiff guys with slow feet. These guys are all guys who can move. So what he's done to turn himself from a guy that Texas Southern was coming after to a guy that Baylor wants to get on their commitment list is pretty impressive, and I think that he'll continue to slide up rankings list as people get to see him play next season, because he's going to be the anchor of that the Woodlands offensive line, and they produce some talent there. That
is on the offensive side of the trenches. Let's go to the defensive side of the trenches, where I would, with respect to Siraki and with respect to the gentleman we're going to talk about after this, I would say this was the headliner of the week for Baylor. Was getting a commitment from Mount Pleasant 2022 defensive tackle Trey Emery. He had 17 other major offers. We have him ranked as the number 3 defensive tackle in the state in the class of 2022. That's just that is a big time get here for the Baylor Bears, and I'm sure Dave Aranda most especially is real pleased with this.
Well, defensive tackles, to me, the toughest spot to not only find talent, it's the toughest spot to develop talent. And when you have someone like Trey Emery who has all of the tools that you're looking for, it gives you a leg up on that development. And there's a reason why 17 other major colleges were after him. So he was blown away on his official. He committed on the first day he was there, I think, on his official visit weekend. He's like, I've seen enough. I'm going to commit to Baylor.
Wow.
But what they have to do is wait and see, is he going to take his official visits next to Oklahoma State and Arkansas? And I'm not saying this is the way that Trey Emery is at all. This isn't a point that I'm going to make about Trey, but there are some guys who go through the recruiting process that are blown away on visits and want to commit. And I'm not saying that he's one of those guys. I'm just saying now he's going to take these other visits. You have to make sure
you lock it in.
You lock it in. But huge commitment, number 3 defensive tackle in the state, and I would say maybe maybe the best defender. He's one of the best defenders in East Texas.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's absolutely fair. We're doing This Week in Recruiting with Greg Powers, Next Level Athlete, here on Texas Football Today. Get involved in the conversation, hashtag TF Today. Let's continue with Baylor, and let's start with, I think maybe the one that flew under people's radar, which was the commitment of Jordan Neighbors, the wide receiver from Rockwall Heath. I think this is a really big get for Baylor. I think that he was a guy who was an integral part of their deep, maybe surprising run, depending on who you ask, in the playoffs last year. There at Rockwall Heath, he had offers from places like Penn State and Florida State. He's decided to go with Baylor. One of the things I like about him is obviously an excellent receiver, but you feel like he could maybe see some early playing time thanks to his ability in the special teams.
Exactly, and he's just one of these guys. Rockwall Heath is loaded. Mm-hmm. They had another guy, their quarterback Joshua Hoover, committed to Indiana a couple days ago. Zach Evans committed to Minnesota. So this is a team that's just ripe with talent. And sometimes I feel like people in the Dallas area overlook Jordan Neighbors in some regard when he probably shouldn't be overlooked. A well-rounded skill set, passes the eyeball test. He's good anywhere that you put him on the football field, and is just a great all-around football player, which I think that's going to play well in Waco in the Big 12. I mean, I bet you he would flip over and have no problem playing defensive back. He just is good at everything.
Yeah.
He's one of these guys who could probably do a little bit of it all. I'm not going to – I got a comparison for him.
Okay.
And I don't – the track speed is not verified, I don't think, with Neighbors the same way it was with this guy, but he reminds me a lot of Devin Duvernay.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he reminds me a lot of on the football field. They love to get him the ball underneath. He makes people miss, and he has the speed to cash it in. So he's a pretty impressive player.
Yeah, that's. I think that's a pretty good comp, and I know that Mike Spradlin and company are really excited to have him back for his senior year. Let's now matriculate back to the Woodlands. We already talked about one of their offensive tackles, Caden Saraki. Let's talk about on the defensive line. On the defensive side, their outside linebacker, Martrell Harris. Martrell Harris, a four-star outside linebacker from the Woodlands, has pulled the trigger to Texas A&M. A very big get for Jimbo Fisher as they continue to do work on the defensive side of the ball. Martrell Harris, a guy who I think you could line up almost anywhere on the field and he would make his impact.
I love Martrell Harris. This is a guy who has a very high upside. I think he moved to Texas 2 years ago. No, he transferred to the Woodlands 2 years ago from another Houston area school. I was thinking maybe he came from Louisiana. He may have. But I just like what he's bringing to the table as far as what his development is going to look like 2 years down the road. You remember Buddy Johnson.
Yes.
He's a freak, right? Physical freak. But he was always impressive when you saw him. But his development once he got to A&M is what kind of changed him from a guy who looked impressive to a guy who always played impressively. Mm-hmm. And Martrell Harris is one of those guys who has the length, the open field running ability to be a really special player in college in the SEC, where you need that speed to not only sometimes chase down running backs, but to cover guys coming out of the backfield, that kind of stuff. I just think these are all the things that make him a four-star type of guy.
And clearly he saw the cover of the magazine and said, I got to go be a part of that.
Well, and I mean, your point is well taken about how in the SEC you've got to have guys who can get out into space and cover. That the days of, especially in the SEC, the days of the run and hit linebacker are numbered. Mm-hmm. Like they're numbered. I'm not saying they're gone, but they're numbered. What you've got to have is guys who can, yes, of course, run and hit and be there and run support, but also get out to the flat and cover a running back coming out of the backfield, or cover a bubble screen and fly to the football. And Martrell Harris is one of those guys.
The conference has changed.
Yes.
This is a conference that's changed a lot, especially over the last 2 years. I think a lot of times, if you were talking traditionally about the SEC, there's like a lot of comparisons between the SEC and the Big Ten. You're like, well, the SEC is the Big Ten, but the guys are just better, right? Up and down the line. That's what makes the SEC so special. Now you're seeing these wide open offenses a lot like what the Big 12 is known for in the SEC, and it's just a vastly different conference, and you have to have a different type of player on the defensive side of the ball, and Martrell Harris is that type of player.
Can I make you crazy? I I think there was just another commitment that came down.
No, who?
I think Isaiah Crawford just committed to Baylor.
See?
Yeah, that's
Things
exactly
are
what
heating
happened.
up. They know that we're going to be in College Station and can't update the database.
Yeah.
That's what's happening.
Exactly right. Anyway.
Get it done now.
So there you go. There, of course. Thanks a lot, guys. All right, let's continue. Let's go to UTSA. Talk about they got a quarterback commitment from this weekend. Maybe a guy that flying under people's radar. This has Jeff Traylor's fingerprints all over it. Diego Tello, the quarterback at Austin Bowie, commits to UTSA over Texas State. This is a guy. This is, I think, a classic Jeff Traylor move here. I think he's identified a quarterback. I'm like, you're pretty good, and I don't think anybody knows about you. Why don't you come to UTSA?
He is high on the quarterback trail right
he
now.
He is second. There was a second offer. He had an offer from Texas State. I have a feeling that UTSA came calling and said, "Buddy, we can make you a star." And I think that's my read on the situation. This feels like a Jeff Traylor move.
I agree, and I really like the combination between him and Brandon Tennyson. Tennyson is a guy who could play a different position if need be, but has really developed as a quarterback. Diego Tello is a little bit bigger, stronger. I describe him as a mobile pocket quarterback, and he's kind of different than ELM too, right? They're bringing in three different type of quarterbacks. Maybe they can get the one that's going to be best suited for their future needs in one of these guys, and they have the roster space to do it. I think he makes their quarterback room better. I really like the way that he quickly diagnoses a play, gets the football out. He has a really quick release, so that's something that I find impressive, and a guy I'd like to see more out of is Diego Tello.
Yes, I think he's a guy who's going to be a star as a senior. So
credit
keep an eye on
to
him.
next level athlete Steve Gideon, who's been telling me about this guy for a while.
Oh, has he?
Right, yeah.
Are they obnoxious, those guys?
No,
whenever
they're great.
whenever one of them hits, though, are they like, "I told you"?
I've
No,
been sitting
not,
here trying to tell you.
not at all. Not at all.
Because I would be insufferable. That's like, I don't know. Like, let's talk about another UTSA
Rick.
quarterback, right? Like Eddie Lee Marburger. Like
Yep.
when Eddie Lee Marburger got committed to UTSA, like all of us were like,
We've
been
been
telling
trying
you.
to let the boy
Well,
cook.
Exactly. Hold on, he's pulling up the back.
Well, I wanted to just see because there was debates. Like I go to these guys and we talk about these quarterbacks, and Diego Tello was one of the Texas top 300 in the magazine this year, and large credit to his ranking because he didn't have any offers when that list was put together. So the talent evaluators knew a little bit of something about Diego Tello, got him listed in that mag.
All right, let's go to so many commitments. Let's go to Richland. Talk about their wide receiver CJ Nelson. He has pulled the trigger, committing to SMU. This is notable because this is, I guess you could probably call it a win in the recruiting battle of the Iron Skillet.
Yep.
He's a one-time TCU commit. He had offers from a lot of Power 5 schools, including like Oregon, Texas Tech, Utah, Arizona State, and now he's a top 100 guy, a hot 100 guy on TexasFootball.com/recruiting, and now he's going to go to SMU. I mean, you talk about drawing a circle around DFW and doing some work within it. That's what SMU's doing here.
Love CJ Nelson. We talked about him when he committed to TCU. He's a twitchy wide receiver who's best suited to play in the slot. SMU had a huge recruiting weekend. They had CJ Nelson on campus, Chase Biddle, Jordan Hudson. We talked about him last week as a guy who to really keep your eye on, and they put their best foot forward with all three of those guys, and then ended up getting a commitment from Nelson, who was a recent TCU commit. So that kind of tells you the recruiting power of what SMU is bringing to the table right now, to go head to head with a Power 5 school, right? And you're basically in your same city. Yeah. So that's the rivalry shall continue.
Yeah, but don't cry for TCU because they got themselves a pretty good wide receiver this week, as Matthew Golden, the Klein Cain wide receiver, checked in and committed to the TCU Horned Frogs. Is a guy who checks in at the number 69 in the DCTF Hot 100. Like this guy a lot, and a guy who, we talked a little bit about Jadon Blue and him opting out of his senior season. Don't sleep on Klein Cain because they've still got this guy. And Matthew Golden is a star who we figure to see this weekend in College Station.
Matthew Golden is one of those guys who you always come away impressed with because of his hands. He catches everything. And he'll be even more impressive in the 7-on-7 setting where you can actually see him work without pads, see how he uses his hands to catch the football naturally away from his body. But you won't see him having a lot of drops, right? This is a guy who, you can see him right there just reaching out and plucking that ball out of the air, making it look really easy. Different receiver than C.J. Nelson. I see Golden as a guy who could play out of the slot some, but I think he's more of an outside receiver. He's a decent blocker, pushes the defensive back, but he's one of those guys you can go to each and every play. He's a go-to receiver, so he's different than C.J. Nelson. But they're very similarly rated. C.J.'s, I think, got him edged by a couple spots in our wide receiver rankings. I think C.J.'s 9 and Golden's 11, but that could easily change. He's one of the guys I'm most excited to see because he was one of those that was in that 4-star discussion. He's been playing and putting up stats for a while now. He's got experience.
So one more thing before we let you go, before we talk with Nick Evers from Flower Mound, the Florida command. You are going to be at 7-on-7 this weekend.
Yep.
You're going to be out there in College Station watching some dudes. We've named a number of them that we're going to see down there. Guys like Hut Graham, guys like Matthew Golden, things like that. Who else? Give me a couple other names that you are particularly interested in watching this weekend in College Station. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit.
Sure. And just if you're wanting to read more about these top prospects in College Station who'll be performing this week, texasfootball.com/recruiting just published.
How about
Literally
that?
just push the button on the top prospects to watch in College Station this weekend.
Wow.
The timing, impeccable timing.
So good.
Guys that I'm really excited to see. Jared Kerr at Lexington.
Yeah.
He's a guy who I'm really excited to see because he's so versatile.
He might be the most electrifying player out there at any level. I think at any level. I mean, this kid is incredible. He's lightning in a bottle.
He's the guy in D3 who I really have circled. I have to see him. Mm-hmm. D2, Reuben Owens will be there. Mm-hmm. But a guy who I'm excited to see is Jace Jones from Silsbee. Mm-hmm. He's a 6'6", 220-pound tight end. Tight ends in 7-on-7 are monsters if you have a good one. So I'm really excited to see him, see what he's bringing to the table. He's a great basketball player. But the D1 tournament is, as always, it's absolutely loaded.
It's stupid, man. It's it's funny because it feels like there's some years in which like there's a couple of big time prospects there, but like you can kind of narrow in on them. This year, it's like. I mean, how many did you write in Division 1?
So I did 3 prospects to watch in D3, 5 to watch in D2, and 15 to watch in D1.
15. I mean, it's crazy.
The quarterback scene is going to be pretty good. Cade Klubnik, Connor Wegman, a guy that I really always love to watch in 7-on-7, Garrett Rangel, but Mabry Matower from the Woodlands. I'm excited to see him. Weston Smith, Cole Welliver. So you have some of the young puppies, the next generation. You remember we saw – Quinn Ewers 2 years ago, and that's really that 7-on-7 tournament where he led them to the state championship game was, in a way, his coming out party, especially on the Texas high school football scene. But I'm hoping and praying that this happens. I'm super stoked to see Caleb Burton play at Lake Travis.
I know.
I'm interested to see
that's
Jackson
the one.
Arnold after your riveting.
Good kid.
Review.
And another quarterback to put on that list. But Caleb Burton is that guy. How does he change the Lake Travis offense? And what does he look like after missing what was virtually his entire year last year? I think he only played some snaps in the first game. So that's a guy just for rankings purposes and that kind of stuff. He's like one of the guys who I'm most excited to actually get my eyeballs on.
He is Greg Powers, an XL athlete. He'll be in College Station this weekend, and he loves surprise hugs. Follow him on Twitter at GPowerScout. Follow Next Level Athlete on Twitter at Next Level D1. See his fine work at TexasFootball.com/recruiting. And stay right there because you're going to introduce the next segment.
Thanks so much for watching that video. If you would like more and to be notified when they come out, go ahead and click that subscribe button right down there. You can also watch Texas Football Today every day live at noon on TexasFootball.com, Facebook, Twitch, and right here on YouTube. For more of the best coverage of Texas football in the Lone Star State, go to TexasFootball.com/subscribe.